it's Jennifer from Flux. Welcome back to week 4 of the 2023 Flux Summer Crochet Along. We are hard at work and have been for the past few weeks for our Summer of Love throw. This is a fun, bright, super happy project we've been stitching up in some cool cotton yarn in just the most fun, bright colors ever. This is a join as you go granny hexagon blanket. So we learned how to make these granny hexagons a couple of weeks ago and to use the join as you go technique to connect them all together. We also have learned how to make the half granny hexagons to kind of finish off the sides of our blanket and give it a straight side. So for today, what we're going to do is we're going to work on some finish work. We have some ends here we need to take care of. We're going to go through those together. And we're also, as an option, it's totally up to you, the top of our blanket has some lovely points. And we're going to learn how to add some optional tassels to those points. I used a contrasting color to make it extra fun, and we're going to put a tassel on each point of our blanket here. Okay, so let's jump right in and get started. Now, if you haven't joined our Ravelry group and our Facebook group, the links are down below. You can hop on in, you can ask about colors if you had any questions. It's a great place to hang out and kind of show off your work as well. And if you're on social media, be sure and use the hashtag FiberFluxCal to share your work. Also, if you missed weeks 1, 2, and 3, the links are down below for those if you needed to catch up on any part of the crochet along as well. So let's get started. Okay, so for today's tutorial, you're not going to need a whole lot. We have our scissors. Now I want you to grab a larger pair of scissors. They're a little bit easier to make the tassels with than the smaller scissors. You'll need a tapestry needle, and then if you've been making your hexagons with all these different colors like I have, you may have some yarn that wasn't quite enough to make a full hexagon. This is going to be perfect for making our tassels. Now when we put our tassels on and you're kind of planning the colors, we're going to do an opposite color. Now you could do the same color. It's up to you. It's your blanket. But I'm going to do like an opposite color of what I have here. So I wouldn't do a blue and a blue. I want to kind of do a contrasting color. Okay, so let's slide our blanket down. And actually, let's slide it back up for me because it looks really, really pretty. And we're in the home stretch. It's very exciting when a project is kind of coming to a close. So I have a way of making tassels. It's really easy. I just make them in my hand. No fancy tools needed. So what you want to do is grab your yarn. And we're going to do a tassel together, and then we'll do some finish work together. So what you're going to do is grab your yarn, and we're going to cut about 12 inches or so. And we're going to cut a second piece about 12 inches or so, okay? So what you're going to do is let the yarn kind of come down the front of your hand, and we're going to start wrapping it around all 4 fingers. So every time you make a pass over your index finger, count that as 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. So wrap it about 40 times, and then let the bottom piece come down to the bottom too, and we're going to cut that with our scissors. Now, you may get another tassel out of this, but then we're going to take this bundle that we just created, and we're going to take one of our pieces of yarn that we cut, and we're going to send it through the middle of the bundle here. And then you're just going to tie the top nice and tight, just like that, okay? Now take your other strand that you cut. You might want to comb this down a little bit so it ties nicely. So take your other strand and you're just going to kind of lay it down on your surface or your lap, whatever you're using. And we're going to lay this down just like this. Now you're going to bring up the sides and just tie it about, I would say, a quarter to a third of the way down. And then just give it another tie just to make sure it's secure. Now when you make a tassel, a lot of times you'll have one piece that lays nice and flat, really nice, and then one that is going to kind of stick up. So zoom into our tassel here. You're going to take your end and just thread it onto your tapestry needle and go ahead and just kind of tuck it in there so it's out of the way, okay? And then just give it a little tug. Now, the last thing you want to do before we attach it is all these loops at the bottom. Grab your scissors, and you're just going to cut all these loops out at the bottom. You can kind of go in there and dig around for them. Sometimes they'll be hidden if your yarn is a little crunched up. And then the last thing we want to do before we tie this on is to just kind of comb these ends down the best you can. Just get everything kind of nice and straight. And then we're going to give this bottom a haircut, okay? So if you see any more loops that you missed, just give those a quick cut. Okay, so now we're just going to cut this straight across. And you may not do it in one clean, easy pass. You may have to kind of go back in there and touch it up. That's totally fine. Okay, now let's look at our handiwork because we still may need to touch it up a little bit. You're going to kind of shake it out and then comb it back down. And if you see a long piece in there, you can just give that a little trim. So now we're going to tie our tassel on. So we're going to be tying them into the corner spaces, or the corner spaces at the top of each point. So you'll see your blanket has points. We're going to tie them into the corner space of the point. Okay. So once again, grab your tapestry needle, and what you can do is just send that right into that corner space. And then we're just going to tie it on. Tie it on pretty tight because this blanket, as it moves around, you want to make sure these stay nice and secure, okay? Now, for the ends, it's really easy to weave in ends on a tassel because what we want to do is grab one end and we're going to go down the middle of this tassel here and pull it through, and then just give it a tug. And we'll straighten everything out in just a minute. Then we're going to thread our second tail, and we're just going to weave that right into the middle there, okay? We don't want to weave it up into the blanket because it will show it's a different color. Then take your scissors and any long pieces and these two strands, just want to give those a cut, okay? So our tassels are complete. What you'll want to do is repeat for each point across. Now maybe I'll do this one in pink and this one in yellow or something like that. But I'm going to try and do contrasting colors. And these tassels will kind of settle down. If you got some kind of crunched up yarn or wavy yarn or something, it will settle down. If you want to help it along a little bit, you could always steam it. You could, if you have a steamer, that's great. If you don't have a steamer, you can always take it into a kind of like a steamy bathroom and hang it up, and it'll kind of settle down. So you'll just repeat for the other points, top and bottom of your blanket. Now remember, we did our half hexagons on the side, so our side has straight sides, but our top has these kind of decorative points that I sort of wanted to like accentuate with tassels. Okay, the last part of this blanket is our finished work. So we want to grab our scissors and our tapestry needle once again, and we can kind of turn our blanket over to the back. Now you can see the back looks a little different than the front, the stitches. All right, so there's going to be two types of tails that you're going to encounter. Remember when you made each tassel, you held that tail along the edges you worked, and that wove that in as you went along. So for those, you're just going to give it a tug and a snip, and you'll do that for each one of those kind. Now there will be some ends like this one that you'll want to weave in yourself. So you'll have usually 2 tails per hexagon, unless you needed to join a new ball in the middle of your hexagon. But you'll have one on the inside and one on the outside. So for these outside ones, you'll want to take your tapestry needle and you're going to go into these back loops only. You don't want it to show on the other side. Don't go traveling into another color. Just stay with this color. And we're going to go in one direction with our needle. And then we're going to come back in the other direction. That will help lock that tail into place. So bring that through and just give it a little snip, okay? And then you'll just repeat that for the rest of your blanket. So that's all you need to know to kind of wrap up and do the finish work for your Summer of Love throw. Now, the project tutorial part is done, but the tutorials will be on the YouTube channel forever. The written part will be on the blog forever. The links are below. You can find that anytime. Now, next week, what I like to do for our crochet alongs is to make like a recap post where we put all the parts of the tutorial on one post so you can see it all in one place. So I will be sharing that next week. As always, be sure and use the hashtag FiberFluxCal to share your work. We all live to see what everyone's doing. And make sure you hop into the Ravelry group and the Facebook group to join the other crochet along makers. I will see you next week for the recap. I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I did. It's just has been so fun and happy. And I've also had fun doing like a stash busting type project as well. So I'll see you next week for the recap so you have it all in one spot. And looking much farther ahead, we will be having as we approach fall in later on, not now, later on, we will have our fall crochet along and a fall update to our Granny Stash Down Challenge. So just looking far ahead, that's what is next. So I will see you next week for our recap. That will be over on the blog. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest FiberFlux video updates. Thanks again.